We took a look at what Sony's first-party studios are bringing to the table in 2026 a few days ago, and if you guessed that Xbox Game Studios was getting a similar rundown, well, you were right. It's going to be a tricky year for the Series S and Series X, but there is no denying that Microsoft does have a lot of talented teams under its gaming umbrella. But what are they up to? And are their offerings going to be enough to either go toe-to-toe with the PS5 or at the very least, gather enough momentum to attempt reversing the two consoles' fading fortunes? Well, we're here to help answer those questions, so join us as we take a look at what Xbox Game Studios is cooking up for a year that's shaping to be just as good as the one before it on the gaming front. It's also a big year as the Xbox turns 25, and as such, there's going to be a lot to be excited about if you've been a fan over the years, so let's get started. The Coalition. The studio behind the Gears of War franchise is all set to take the meta-narrative it has established over the years back to its roots, bringing back Marcus and Dom to the stage for a prequel that has fans excited to learn more about the gruff soldier's turbulent relationship with his superiors and the events that led to the Locust rising as a threat to his world in Gears of War E-Day. In a look back at the year it had in 2025, which featured studio heads discussing future projects, Mike Crump, who heads the Coalition, was pretty excited to assert that E-Day is the franchise's most ambitious title yet, and confirmed that it was on track to release later this year, with Polish studio People Can Fly joining the studio to lend a helping hand. We're going to be watching out with very sharp eyes for a release date announcement, and we're sure that those among you who love Gears of War share our enthusiasm. Compulsion Games. The South of Midnight developer has been basking in the success of the title, expressing gratitude for its excellent reception and confirming that a new project is already in the works. It has since stated that the lessons it picked up from developing South of Midnight has allowed it to grow and mature as a studio, and that this new project is going to reflect those learnings to be a game that is made to impress. However, the studio is likely to focus on the multi-platform release for South of Midnight over this year, and its new project is likely not going to surface in 2026. Double Fine. The studio has been relatively silent since the release of Keeper last year, and with little to no news about its next project surfacing in the months that followed, we can only guess the team behind a very unique game is getting some well-deserved rest, while they put down ideas for their next big thing on the drawing board. Now, that's not to say that we may not hear from the studio over the course of the year, though, and we're hoping for more unique ideas given its last project was a game with no dialogue that still managed to keep us glued to our screens. Halo Studios. It looks like Halo is taking the Gears of War route this year, with Halo Studios all set to release Halo Campaign Evolved sometime this year for the PS5, PC, and Xbox. A remake of a timeless classic, the new game is slated to bring several improvements to the original's gameplay loop, such as the ability to hijack vehicles, weapon zooming, a redesign for the Warthog, up to 4-player online co-op, and 2-player couch co-op, and so much more. The visuals are also getting a leg up with Unreal Engine 5 powering the experience. The game's iconic multiplayer being given a pass is a bummer though. However, getting to see the campaign in a whole new light is something that we're definitely excited about. The bonus missions that act as a prequel are another nice touch that we're very curious about. InXile Entertainment. We've been looking forward to Clockwork Revolution ever since this title was announced by InXile back in 2023. With a solid look into how the game works last year, and rumors that it could be slated for release this year that must be taken with a pinch of salt, this is definitely one to watch out for. If you're unfamiliar with the game, it brings a very interesting premise with some time travel shenanigans that pits you against a manipulative antagonist in her quest to consolidate power with a customizable protagonist. It's quite impressive, and we hope the rumors that it's making its way to our screens later this year are true, although we're only carefully optimistic on that front. Mojang Studios. There's a lot to be excited about if you're into Minecraft, as Mojang is bringing 8 new baby farm mobs to the game, replete with visual changes that make them quite adorable indeed. However, the drop is still in its testing phase, and you might have to wait a while for an official release announcement depending on how things progress. However, that's still good news, and we'll be sure to have an update for you as soon as we can confirm any changes to the status quo. Ninja Theory. The studio behind Hellblade is reportedly working on a new title that's focused on being more interactive and action-oriented than its past offerings, while sustaining the cinematic quality that it is now known for, as per Windows Central's Jez Corden. While there is speculation that a new title could be Hellblade 3, it could very well be a new IP. Either way, it's likely that 2026 might be a quiet year for Ninja Theory, but that could very well change in the coming months. There are reportedly 4 new projects in development, along with speculations that a remake of Fallout New Vegas, in vein of last year's Oblivion, is likely coming this year. However, that remains currently unconfirmed, so hopefully this month's Xbox Direct may bring news on that front. But if you happen to miss it, fret not, since we're definitely going to have your back on that one. Playground Games. The long-standing staple of Xbox Game Studios is going to be front and center at the Developer Direct event, with both Fable and Forza Horizon 6 slated to make an appearance in what is shaping up to be a big year for the studio. With no gameplay currently available for both titles, we're quite certain that we'll be getting quite a close look at what each of them is bringing to the table. While Fable is poised to be a reboot of the franchise aimed at modernizing it for new generations of players, Forza Horizon 6 is going to take you to Japan this time around, with a map that's touted to be the biggest one yet in the franchise and a lot to look forward to. We expect a release date announcement later this month, although it could take a little longer. Both games are currently slated for a 2026 release though. Rare. While the cancellation of Everwild is sure to have been a blow to the Sea of Thieves developer, the appointment of Luis O'Connor as the chief of staff for Xbox Game Studios might help with dealing with that loss and the layoffs that affected the studio. It's looking like a quiet year though that's going to be spent figuring out a way forward for the studio, but we're hopeful that we at least get a hint at what it aims to do next. Turn 10 Studios. The studio behind Forza Motorsport is going to stop updates to its flagship title in order to help Playground Games with Forza Horizon 6. While that news is bittersweet, we're still happy that the studio has managed to survive the turbulence of last year and come out on top. Who knows, we might even get news of a new project later down the line, but for now, it's looking like a relatively quiet year for this one. Undead Labs. We're still waiting on news about State of Decay 3 after Undead Labs posted that very cryptic teaser ahead of its 2025 edition of Summer Games Fest. However, things have been very quiet on that front, and the studio's layoffs from last year have us a tad worried about the title's current status. We're still holding out hope, however, and would be delighted to hear some good news from Developer Direct later this month. Fingers crossed, we'd say. World's Edge. The studio's job posting from last year fueled a lot of speculation that it would be taking a more hands-on approach to Age of Empires, and that an Unreal Engine-powered new addition to the franchise was in the works. And while nothing is confirmed at this moment, that could very well change later this year. It would make sense for the studio to bring a new title in its flagship franchise, and you can bet that we'd be very happy to hear about it over the course of this year. Once again, we're hoping to advise cautious optimism, but one can always hope, right? Well, and that's a wrap on the big releases and potential announcements from Xbox Game Studios as it gears up for a year that's quite the landmark for the iconic console. We can't wait to get our hands on all of the titles that are coming our way, and hope to join you as we enjoy a year of great games from these talented studios.
And that'll be about it for this one. If you guys like what we're doing at GamingBolt, please consider subscribing to our channel, and I'll see you guys on the next video.